Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Welcome to the show, Anne Stuart. It's so great to have you on. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
We met through a mutual friend, Molly, who is also a chef, and we love her as well.
Yes, we love Molly. Different kind of chef, but a fellow Texan living in Paris as well. It's always fun to find us. We're everywhere.
Exactly. You Texans get around. But I want to go back to the beginning.
We do. Yeah.
You kind of took us there. You said you're from Texas. Talk a little bit about where you're from and what brought you to France.
Yeah, so I'm hi everyone, Ann Stuart here. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, if anyone's familiar with that. I always say it's the seventh largest city in the US that nobody knows about. We fly really low under the radar, but grew up in San Antonio and have lived there and in Texas my whole life, but was very, very fortunate by my parents to be raised with a very kind of more of an international mindset and identity. My dad was in the wine business, still in the wine business. And so we always had a slew of, Kiwis, Australians, a lot of South Americans, like in and out of the house, as well as French and Italian. So I really kind of got to see from a young age, like the world is so much bigger than, this little bubble that I'm in, which was fantastic. To be able to see. And also growing up in San Antonio, I think we have one of the best food scenes in the world. We're so close. I mean, we're 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how fast you drive, to the Mexican border. So just growing up with a really big kind of identification with food and celebration and joy that really surrounds it.
Well, like you said, it's really interesting that you had that from such a young age, that you had, all these different cultures in your life. And like you said, the food scene's really big there. So is that kind of what inspired you to begin cooking? Like, were you always cooking? You always enjoyed food and wine?
Yeah, always. And just always thought it was so much fun. I remember one of my dad's friends gave me a spoonful of Vegemite, which, oh my goodness, if you've never had that, it's like Marmite, but even stronger. And that, I think I must have been about like 7 years old, like an entire spoonful. You're supposed to spread it on toast, like in a very minimal capacity. And I just remember then, like after I got over the coughing fit, I was like, whoa. You mean like where are you from? You eat different things than this? And that just really sparked my curiosity, really, which I think I've tried to keep a focus and a manifestation of my life is to always be curiously seeking joy. In whatever, thank you. Oh my God, I just kind of, but in whatever capacity that is. And so both of my parents are fantastic cooks. I mean, not professionally trained, but in the home. And I was very fortunate to be able to, I used to be obsessed with Italy. I mean, I still am, who's not obsessed with Italy, but I got to do my study abroad when I was 17. I did it very early on a June birthday. So did it right after freshman year at university. And I went to UT, if you have any Longhorns here. But I lived with this little old lady in Rome in her apartment. She lived on the Aventine Hill, and she's who really taught me, because I guess when you step out of your parents or your home life into what you've always known, and you get, then kind of plopped into a different sort of bubble, she really expanded my eyes and like taught me how to shop like the local markets, which at that time, farmers markets weren't so much of a thing as they are now and so easily accessible, especially in the United States. Fortunately, that shifted, but she really helped me like grow, like, okay, if you have, this amount of ingredients, this is what you're able to make. And with the Italians specifically, which many other cultures and nationalities have the same, but that real emphasis on rustic but fantastic ingredients, kind of recipe-free style of cooking, just really opened and expanded my mind. And I got back from Italy and was like, this is what I want to do. I want to cook and make people happy.
I love that. And that sounds like the scariest thing in the world to me, cooking without a recipe. Like that sounds like I'm just gonna make something terrible. And for me, that's magic that people can even do that.
Oh, I'll get you there. It's so incredibly free because the thing with cooking is and as opposed to baking. So like we take, Molly, who's this brilliant patisserie chef, a lot of baking is lessons in chemistry. And you do need to make sure that you get the right amount of yeast to the right amount of water. Now, when it comes to cooking, your ability to play, kind of a lot of those boundaries get taken away
Hmm.
with that. So you're able to look at, like, I always like playing around with like a 5 spice minimum when it comes to whether I'm going to marinate something or whatever. Like, all right, what other flavors can I throw around in here to either, fool myself or to surprise other people. But yeah, recipe free cooking is great. You've got to be able to trust yourself and to trust that creative process, really.
Yeah. I mean,
Sometimes it's inedible, but more often than not, it's
I mean,
delicious.
nothing more creative than recipe-free cooking. I feel like you're really just doing it
Yeah.
on the fly. And you studied at the Cordon Bleu in France. Talk a little bit about that.
I did. So I had always been in international business beforehand. So always loving to cook. And I'd always had sent out, since right after I graduated college, I had started sending out recipes once a week to my friends, very kind of like loosely based, loosey goosey recipes. But I then went in international business. And then during COVID-19, which, gosh, I can't believe that's been, almost 4 years ago now. But during
Yeah.
COVID, I was in global sourcing and buying for a massive retail grocery chain in the States. And it was kind of one of those that I, like, halfway through, was sitting there and I was like, what am I doing, like, with my life? Like, I know I want to be back in Europe. I'd lived in London for a lot of my 20s, working. And I was like, I know I want to be back. And I know I want to have like a full blown culinary education. So I had, the minute the borders opened up midway through 2021, I went to France for 2 weeks to visit friends and to volunteer as a chef in some chateaus, doing a workaway program. If you're familiar, you or your listeners are familiar with workaway.
Hmm.
It's a fantastic program. Yeah. That you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere and work, for free, but you get lodging and room and board. And by
Okay.
the time I got back on a plane, Crystal, within 2 weeks, I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Le Cordon Bleu, which is ranked the number one in the world. And I'm going to apply, I'm going to get in, and I'm going to get that education. So I did. I did the the Diplôme de Cuisine which was a 9-month program. So I did that throughout all of 2022. So it's 3 months of basic, which is the hardest, like in most things. Your first like
Mhm.
basic training is going to be the most treacherous. Maybe is going too far, but definitely the most difficult. And then 3 months of intermediate, 3 months of advanced. Then I graduated and decided to stick around for an additional diplôme en français, in nutrition, gastronomy, and food trends, which was mind blowing and eye opening and such a fantastic addition to the curriculum.
That sounds fascinating. I mean, talk a little bit about that last piece of what were some of the food trends? What were some of the things that really surprised you that you learned?
Well, so it was really interesting because obviously Le Cordon Bleu, I went to the one in Paris, and so it was all centered around kind of the French food trends, a little bit of like
Mhm.
global impact, which is what I had done in global procurement, sourcing procurement. But really, one thing that I'm so passionate about is attention to the sourcing of ingredients, like a recipe, whether it's a dish at a restaurant, whether it's a label or a shelf stable meal you pick up at your local grocery store. The emphasis on now, the world is turning to looking at socio and economic kind of structures around that. Like, what does the actual food supply chain look like? That what are the environmental impacts doing? Who's creating, who's making this food? Where is it
Yeah.
growing? Which is what really just gets my gears absolutely grinding in the best way possible. And I
Yeah.
think that specific curriculum is missing from, pretty much anyone who is on not everyone, but if you don't seek it out, if that's not given to you in culinary school, a lot of chefs don't know. They'll be like, oh yeah, these tomatoes come from somewhere, say in China. And then you go like, okay, well, I know what's going on there. That's in the Uyghur population. And there's the US has an embargo on the Uyghur side for potential genocide that has been clocked there towards the Uyghurs. And so it's kind of like knowing that backstory of the food and where it comes and what is that impact. So the nutrition, gastronomy, and food trends touched on that a little bit, but kind of the food trending into sustainability, into understanding what goes in food. Now in Europe, specifically France, we don't have to worry about that because they have, so I mean, really here you do only eat natural food. There is limited, I mean, GMOs aren't a thing, non-GMOs not a thing here because they don't do GMOs.
Yeah,
You don't have
which
to
is
call
so
that out.
nice.
Preservatives, yeah, you don't even have to think about it here. Which
Yeah.
is, I mean, what an idea, what a thought that you can just reach for something and it's not going to be filled with cancer causing principles. Like, um,
Yeah.
so, and that's something that in my long-term vision, because I still love the States. I mean, we have in the States, we have such an incredible array also because we're such a melting pot of food, of international food cultures. But I would really, really love to be able to kind of go behind the curtain and make that kind of natural food available to all, not just, you know, those that can afford the non-GMO, the organic, the non-preservative free food. So that's kind of what that touched on a little bit about in school. And then of course, you know, fusion trends, you know, mixing different cultures. You know, they talked a lot about, you know, the Peruvian sushi scene is like so big. So some of it was very, very siloed. They're still working on it, but it was incredible and a great way to also meet a lot of people, especially in terms of the food nutrition side, which France teaches completely differently than the US. So it was less molecular compounds and more, if you cut a vegetable this way, it will retain these nutritional properties and benefits. If you do it this way, you're going to have less. So it was kind of that practicality as well. That was really eye-opening, kind of a duh when you hear it, but very, very eye-opening.
Oh, that's fascinating. I had no idea that the vitamins change based on how you cut something.
Oh, they do. Oh, they do. The smaller you go or the more surface area you expose, I always kind of think of it as like these little molecules just flitting and floating up into the air. Especially like on it, well, not to get too into it, but on the bacteria, you know, side of it as well. The more surface areas you expose, the more you have for that. And as well as applying heat, you start engaging other enzymes, various proteins, sugars. So yeah, my biggest piece of advice is keep the skin on your vegetables. That's where all the nutrients are. If you're going to eat a vegetable, get the credit. Don't peel that cucumber. Yeah.
Well, thanks for that information. That's huge. Don't peel the cucumber.
You're welcome.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You are currently working in a chateau in France as a chef. Talk a little bit about that.
I am. Well, so yeah, I was up until last week. So now I'm in a different space. But yeah, so because when I came here for my first vacation, international vacation post COVID, I kind of fell into the Chateau workaway programs and got to meet a lot of really fantastic Chateau owners around France. And maybe your viewers are familiar with Chateau, but it's French for basically castle. And they are littered all over France. Like, I think I asked somebody one time, like, how many chateaux, and one person told me like maybe 800, and then somebody was like, oh, probably closer to 5,000. I was like, oh, okay, so a castle on every corner. um,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, and I mean, there's so many fantastic chateau owners, a lot of whom are expats from around the world. I've met a few fantastic ones from Canada, which is where I was this last time. Americans, a lot of Aussies. Actually, a lot of Aussies are buying up chateaus. And which just make sure they don't give you a spoonful of Marmite. Nobody fall for that like I did. And yeah, so I go to these, like this one last week. It's this wonderful chateau in the Dordogne region, which is the southwest of France. And I describe it, Crystal, it's like the Beauty and the Beast area of France. Have you been yet?
I've still never been. I need to go.
Oh, you gotta go. Okay, I'll host you down there. Oh, well, I'll ask them if I can host you down there. We'll have
Yes,
the chateau.
please.
But
Yes, please.
it's so beautiful, and so like I'll be cooking for up to 10 people who are the guest of the chateau, whether it's just their guest in general or if they're hosting creative retreats, which is what they did last week. So they had a fabulous artist from Canada and these ladies that have come in from all over the world to do this artistic retreat, and then I'm the chef for them. And so
That's so
I wake
fun.
up and I go out to the markets early. And I've been working with this particular chateau quite a bit. This was like my 5th week with them, kind of throughout the summer staggered. But so I've gotten to know a lot of the market vendors and the different villages and towns nearby. So, which is so fun because now I'm able to, walk through the markets and, it's the same as you in Paris. I'm sure you have your specific vendors that you like. This guy has the best apples. This one has the best cheese. But not his, Epoisse. That one's never very good. He doesn't have a good vendor, and it's this one anyways. So, but it's so fun because I really try when I'm cooking, especially in these chateaus, to give people especially those who either haven't been to France before or aren't familiar with necessarily French technique, to give them those delicious and wonderful French ingredients that they're not going to find as easily either back where they're from or they're just not familiar with. So
Yeah.
not necessarily, like everything has to be traditional, French. Like I'm not going to serve a French onion soup in July when it's, 102 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, but kind of figuring out like, oh, these are, like these certain vegetables and those are the techniques that they do. So specifically in the Dordogne, I do a lot of duck because that's where not all, but most of the duck comes from in France. It even ends up on your plate in Paris, your magret de canard, which is your duck breast. Is the big massive one that comes from, and sorry if anyone's listening, if you're vegan, maybe turn off. But that's the duck, the same duck that they use for foie gras. And
Oh
so
wow.
they feed the duck quite a bit to make the liver be able to do what foie gras will eventually do. So then thereby the breasts get very, very large. And then that's what, when you get in France, a magret de canard, that's what it is. So it's using all parts and it's kind of just talking through and explaining that. I'm a big believer in explaining the dishes, not too much because people,
Mhm.
want to dig in and eat. But
Yeah.
I think that that's really important because I'm always like, what is this?
Yeah.
How do I do this? Yeah.
No, it must be so rewarding to, especially with the excitement of people who haven't tried these things. It's their first time in the
Mhm.
country, maybe, and you're kind of like a food ambassador for these people.
Oh, I like that. Ooh, I'm gonna add that. I'm gonna add that to my website along with all the beautiful photos you took of me. Y'all, Crystal's an amazing photographer. She took all my photos. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
and
you
I think
are.
I think that's a really important way to look at it because at the end of the day, especially as the world is becoming so much more kind of globally focused, now we know what's happening now so much quicker in all different parts around the world. A lot of people are traveling again quite a bit. We just live in a much more globally focused world. I think that that's really exciting to be able to do that and to be able to take, okay, these are some traditional French ingredients and techniques, but then how can I marry those with the way that I like flavors? So like I always say, actually, Molly and I talked about this a while ago, like if you think of like in terms of food and ingredients being complementary or contrasting. Like French cuisine is majorly complementary flavors. It's a
Mhm.
lot of fats. It's a lot of everything, really, really works together. Whereas I grew up with mostly like Mexican and like Tex-Mex cooking, which is and Italian, which is more contrasting flavors.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to be like, all right, I love the French techniques, like next to the Japanese, they're some of the most like strenuous and complex. But then how can I marry that then with the flavors that I like? I mean, and I'm from Texas. I like spicy food. Like I've been eating jalapenos since I was 3 years old, which is difficult to find in France. But
Yeah.
yeah, so how do you marry it and marry those flavors with, your taste buds and celebrate what you enjoy about cooking and about food.
And do you find it difficult to work in all these chateaus? Because I'm sure sometimes the kitchens are older, sometimes they're revamped,
Uh,
things are working certain ways,
uh,
and they're not working. Like, can that be tough?
yeah, oh, yeah. Did I tell you that? So yeah, last week I'd had fortunately most of the dinner already done. So I was working in this kitchen, and the chateau may be 500 years old, and the kitchen structure itself may be 500 years old, but all of the appliances are probably from 1972. And that's being kind. And I'm working on a four-top stove, but if your listeners are familiar with kind of the four-top tiny French or Parisian kitchen stovetops. We're
Yeah.
talking you can't actually fit 4 pans on them. It's too
Wow.
small. So it's not your regular American size. Yeah. And so it was that in an oven. And I had been, saying and alluding to the owners, like, by the way, this is kind of, puttering out, like, whenever you intend on, revamping the kitchen. So I'm almost on a dinner service and the entire oven and stovetop just stopped working.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, and it was one of those moments, Crystal. I mean, and it's probably, and for this retreat, for this artistic retreat, the ladies, it was all women at this retreat, did like eating early, which is sometimes nice. Actually, it's usually nice because then that means you can clear out and have the kitchen completely reset for morning by 10 p.m. But I was like, I can't serve anything if I can't cook it on a stovetop or an oven. Like, I need heat. And it was chilly. I was like, it's not like I can say, oh, we're doing a raw bar tonight. Like, it's cold
Yeah,
outside.
exactly. Oh
So
man.
it's bad, but fortunately, I mean, the guests thought it was hilarious. And I did do a lot of prepping before because the stove and oven is so small. I can't cook anything like to service, like as you do
Yeah.
in a restaurant. I have to prep quite a bit. So fortunately I had that, but the Chatelains went out the next morning and purchased a brand new oven and stovetop. And I'll go ahead and tell you, 2 days later, things are great. And then the electrical circuit on the stovetop stopped working, but the ovens were still working. So I was able to cook a full dinner, a 5-course dinner in the oven. But yeah, things like that happen. I'm right now down in Provence and was teaching a class online 2 days ago, and a hornet flew in. So then I
Yeah.
had to run around the kitchen and then let the hornet out. Yeah, I mean, things happen. But I always like saying no one likes a stressed out chef. Like
Yeah.
it's not a good look. Especially if you are cooking for people who are, kind of paying for that experience, whether it's a chateau, whether it's a beautiful retreat house, whether it's a cabin in the woods. I've always been a big believer of that. I mean, being able to share food and share a plate with someone, and this is, I mean, kind of what I'm a child of Anthony Bourdain, like really instilled with us. It's the best and most simplistic way to share space with another human. And I don't ever want anyone feeling like, oh, don't go in there. Like the chef, kind of like that scene from The Little Mermaid, the Le Poisson chef, throwing things. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to always keep a smooth and calm ship.
Yep.
You can always order a pizza if like worse comes to worse.
Yeah. Keep it lighthearted, keep it fun.
Yeah. Keep it going, keep it professional.
Yes, that's what they're paying for. And what's something
Yeah, exactly.
more people knew about French cooking? What do you wish they knew that you think a lot of people don't know about French cooking?
Oh my God, how varied it is. Oh, French cooking is not just going to a bistro or cafe in Paris and ordering French onion soup, although it's delicious and everybody loves a good cheese pull. I'm not judging you if that's what you love most about French food. But for Europe, France is a very large country. And I say that, I'm Texan. France is smaller than Texas, but whatever. But there's so many fantastic regions that I think go completely unsung. I think a lot of people think France and just think the capital, but there's so much more than boeuf bourguignon and coq au vin. And actually both of those dishes started out as peasant food, as did ratatouille. It's how do you take the toughest part of the meat and the meat that no one wanted. So boeuf bourguignon is a cut of meat that was a really old steer. You can't make boeuf bourguignon like they used to because you don't get that at the market anymore unless you have your own ranch. Then of course you can.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. But and then coq au vin is actually hen. So there's just so many different cuisines, whether you have, the Norman focus on their apples, like everything in Normandy, the Normandy cheese and butter and apples, and the way that permeates cuisine. I'm down in Provence right now. I'm sitting in Grasse, actually the perfume capital, but I can see Cannes from my window. And then if I look really far on my tippy toes, I could see Nice, then Monaco, then Italy. You've got all of that influence down here. And down here in this part of France, it's not about butter. It's all about olive oil. You go, to the Southwest and it's very Basque and Spain, and there's just so many different flavors, different different people, different, people who have immigrated here as well, and then really permeated. I mean, the Moroccan, actually, I think I'm going to Moroccan tonight down in Cannes. I'm super excited about. Like, there's just so many other things, and I think that, and I don't know if it's specifically American or whatnot, when people think French food, they tend to just think croissant, baguette, French onion soup, boeuf bourguignon, stinky cheese. Okay, that's it. That's done.
Yeah.
And there's just, yeah, like, if please, anyone listening, come to France, come to the Southwest, and try a cassoulet, and your life will never be the same again. I cried my first cassoulet bite. It was that transformative. So that was in Carcassonne. That was a good day. But yeah, and I think that the French too they're becoming much more receptive to not necessarily outside influence, but to that, kind of excitement of like, but all these other things that it is and that it can be. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very, very.
Yeah, I think that's great information to have, because like you said, so many people think like steak and frites, but there's so much more to French cooking, and you need to go to different regions and explore that if you have time. There's more than Paris. There's more than the French Riviera. That's super exciting. And what's something you want to share with viewers from your own business? What's on the horizon? What's coming? You give private lessons. You do chateaus. You do online classes. Tell people more.
I do. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do. We're all over the place, but in the best way possible. So I do. I have well, it is recipe, but they're kind of loose, free form recipes. A different structure than your traditional cookbooks. I have that on a weekly Substack where I send up to 4 recipes a week, and that's on a free and paid subscriber basis. I have that, which I've actually started doing a lot of consultation and menu planning help from, which has been fun. That's in its infancy, but has been really great. Especially, I kind of help people organize their grocery shopping list, or especially in the US, it's so easy now to order your food, even from your local grocery stores that can do pickups. I've been doing quite a bit of that. I do private chefing in Paris, private chefing or personal. People get both of those terms. You're either really one way or really the other. I just say both, like whatever you want to say, sure, I'll do it. But I do that in Paris, and then and catering as well in Paris, and then in Chateau. So if you have a retreat, or if you're renting a chateau like through Airbnb or a farmhouse or whatever, I will come and cook and give you that experience. And with that, I also do lessons. So I do a lot of online lessons, sometimes like even just through FaceTime, if that's the easiest thing, or Google Meets. I do them in person as well. At one of these chateaus, I did my first kind of cooking retreat, which was great. It was 4 couples from the US and from the UK. I used to live in the UK, so I love my Brits. So I do quite a bit of that. And then I'm coming to y'all from Provence right now, where I'm working at La Peach, which is the former home of Julia and Paul Child, their former vacation home down here, teaching with OK Perfect and the Courageous Cooking Method, which is a recipe-free cooking method. And it's just fantastic. So I can be found, kind of wherever you need me.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's so exciting too. Looking at Julia Child's old vacation house.
It's crazy. And like, I've been working here quite a bit throughout the year, and we're hosting guests right now for their cooking school, which runs for a week. The guests rent out the house, and it's so fantastic. And the head chef here is just incredible, and I've learned so much from her. And she's also a fellow Le Cordon Bleu graduate, but has been cooking since she was like 15. She's just amazing. But it's so amazing to watch these students that come in and guests that walk into the kitchen, and I'm in there pouring them a glass of wine, like, hey, come in the kitchen. Here's a spice rack, because we're going to talk about. And then I just see their eyes widening. I'm like, oh, I should stop talking. They're taking a moment to take in, because all of Julia's stuff is still there. It's the pegboard kitchen. It's very similar to the one you see at the Smithsonian. Like, and I'll have to go, oh yes, like, oh yeah, this is a big deal. Like,
wow. So yeah, that's wild. Oh my goodness. We'll have to share all of that in the show notes. And where can people connect with you and learn more?
Yeah, oh, great. Well, you can find the Substack is usually the easiest way. That's Ann Stuart Folks. That's I think .substack. I'm also mostly on Instagram. So if you're into me constantly peppering you through crazy stories, that's where I mostly live on there on the Instagram stories. Just travels around France and Europe. Usually on there a lot. That's Ann Stuart Folks, just ANNE, then STUART Folks, FOLKES, like Porky Pig, that's all folks, but with an E. Also, you can connect with me through my website, Gourmet by Ann Stuart Folks. That is a website as well. And then I have all my contact details through there.
Perfect. Well, we'll share all that in the show notes, guys.
Thank
Check
you.
her out. She's doing so much. It's a fascinating life. I'm waiting for your reality show to come out because I'd be watching.
Okay.
And thanks so much for joining today.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Please come to France, come cook, come play, come be courageous and experience.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.